I AM Discourse by Saint Germain. Reading Discourse One. Invocation. Thou infinite mighty presence, thou all-pervading principle of life, we give praise and thanks for thy wondrous activity through all outer presence. Out of thy mighty essence comes all that is, and oh, that humanity might understand. Thou art ever and forever self-sustained, thou mighty, active principle of life. Surge forth in the outer activity of mankind and manifest thy supreme justice now in all places. Mighty presence of light, God in action, govern the minds of mankind, holding them to truth and justice, and see that thy messengers are placed in all official positions. Let naught of the outer interfere, that none of humanity may accept any thought of deception. Mighty presence of God in action, surge forth in the minds of all, expressing thy conquering presence. Greetings. I bring you greetings from the perfected ones who are watching closely over and ministering to all. The discourse, life, in all its activities everywhere manifest, is God in action, and it is only through lack of the understanding of applied thought and feeling that mankind is constantly interrupting the pure flow of that perfect essence of life, which would, without interference, naturally express its perfection everywhere. The natural tendency of life is love, peace, beauty, harmony, and opulence. For life cares not who uses it, but is constantly surging to pour more of its perfection into manifestation, always with that lifting process, which is ever inherent within itself. I am is the activity of that life. How strange it is that students with sincere interest do not seem to get the true meaning of those two words. When you say and feel I am, you release the spring of eternal everlasting life to flow on its way unmolested. In other words, you open wide the door to its natural flow. When you say I am not, you shut the door in the face of this mighty energy. I am is the full activity of God. Having placed before you so often the truth of God in action, I wish you to understand its first expression in individualization. The first expression of every individual, everywhere in the universe, either in spoken word, silent thought, or feeling, is I am, recognizing its own conquering divinity. The student endeavoring to understand and apply these mighty yet simple laws must stand guard more strictly over his thought and expression, in word or otherwise, for every time you say, I am not, I cannot, I have not, you are, whether knowingly or unknowingly, throttling that great presence within you. This is just as tangible as if you placed your hands about the throat of an outer form. Only with the outer form, your thought governing the hand, you can release it at any time. But when you make a declaration using the words, I am not, you set in motion mighty, limitless energy that continues to act, unless it is recalled and the imperfection consumed and transmuted. This shows you the enormous power you have to qualify this mighty energy of God. And I tell you, beloved students, dynamite is less dangerous, for that would but liberate you from the body, while these thoughts, sent forth ignorantly and ungoverned, bind you upon the wheel of re-embodiment indefinitely. Thus you can see how important it is for you to know what you are doing when you thoughtlessly use wrong expressions, because you are using the most divine principle of activity in the universe. I am. Do not misunderstand me. This is no idle, foreign, or oriental expression, but the highest principle of life used and expressed throughout every civilization that has ever existed. For the first expression every self-conscious form of life gives is I am. It is only afterwards, in its contact with outer, wrongly qualified activity, that it begins to accept anything less than I am. Now, dear students, do you not see that when you say I am sick, you are just reversing this principle of life, which is naturally all perfection, thus requalifying it by your willful ignorance with something which it never naturally possessed? Through long centuries of willful misunderstanding, humanity has charged the very atmosphere about them with falsehood and unreality. For I need not say to you that when you say I am sick, it is an abject falsehood in respect to your divinity, which cannot be sick. Does this sound harsh to you? Then I say, think it over and you will see what a blessing and release it can be to you. I say to you, dear students, in the name of God, stop using these wrong expressions of your Godhead, of your divinity, for it is impossible for you to have freedom as long as you continue to do it. I cannot speak of this to you too often, that when you really recognize and accept the mighty presence of God in you, there are positively no adverse conditions. Stop. I say to you, giving power to the outer conditions, persons, places, or things, and in the name of God, every time you find yourself starting to say, I am sick, I am broke, I am not feeling well, instantly reverse this fatal condition to your progress, and declare silently with all the intensity of your being, I am, which is all health, opulence, perfection, happiness, peace, and the power to recognize perfection in yourself and everywhere else. When you think of the expression I am, it means that you know you have God in action expressing in your life. Do not let these false expressions continue to govern and limit you. Continually remind yourself, I live, move, and have my being and all outer expression in the full opulence of God, made manifest every moment. In thus reminding yourself of this invincible, unconquerable presence, you keep the door open for its pure, invincible essence and intelligence to weave into your outer expression, that wondrous perfection. I plead with you, dear ones everywhere, do not continue to use these wrong expressions thinking that in some hocus-pocus way you may slide past reaping the result. It simply cannot be done. Many of you know that they use the branding iron on the western frontier as a recognition of ownership by the ranchmen. So great is my desire to have you recognize and hold fast to the active presence of God in you, that I almost long for a branding iron to brand those words, I am, into your consciousness for constant use, that you could not be drawn off the recognition, acceptance, and use of that mighty, glorious presence of God which you are. I trust that all who may hear or read these words will feel the power and the mighty conviction of this truth that goes with them, leaping into action wherever expressed. If at any time anything less than perfection attempts to make an appearance in your experience, declare vehemently that it is not true, and that you accept only God, which is perfection in your life, everywhere manifest. As long as you give way to accepting false appearances, you will have them expressed in your life and experience. It is not, dear student, a matter of belief on your part whether you accept these truths or not, but they are the law, proven through long centuries of experience, and are placed before you for your freedom. Awaken to the fact that your thought and feeling in the past have built, created, the inharmony of your world today. Arise, I say, arise, and walk with the Father, the I am, that you may be free from these limitations. There's only one thing in this universe that can surround you with limitation, and that is accepting the outer appearance instead of the mighty, active presence of God in you. The Western world likes to fool itself with the idea that it refuses to accept the ancient and Eastern idea of sorcery. In other words, the misuse of the spiritual powers. The worst kind of sorcery is being used in the political fields today that has ever been known in the history of mankind through the use of mental power, wrongly qualified. If this same tremendous mental force were used in just the reverse way, to know that there is only God in action in every individual filling official places, the sender of that quality or truth would not only be free himself, but the political world would be filled with freedom and justice. Then we would experience a natural world, a world of God in action, everywhere present. It is today as it was at one time in Egypt. Those who misuse the mental power are binding themselves to the rack of inharmony, embodiment after embodiment. Take the stand. I do not take on conditions from anybody or anything about me but God. Good and I am always God commanded. You need to acquire the habit of stilling yourself. Sit down 3 or 4 times a day and simply still the outer self. This will let the energy be supplied. Learn to command and control the energy in your body. If you want the energy still, be still. If you want the energy active, be active. You must stand up, face a thing, and rise above it. There is no other way. The student should watch in every way for habits and break them up. He should not have to be told, but must look within himself and uproot whatever is not perfect. This brings a freedom not possible in any other way. The holding on of old habits is just like wearing old, worn-out garments. The student must not wait for someone else to think these things out for him. He must do it himself. It is not possible for anyone to do it but himself. In this work and under this radiation, everything that is latent in the individual is being brought forth to be consumed. Watch that the attention does not become fixed on the thing you do not want. It is perfectly ridiculous to keep recalling things which have not worked out. If you have built your limitations for centuries and can, by this attention and self-effort, free yourself in a few years, isn't it worth it? Is it not marvelous? A humorous sense of getting away from a thing is sometimes the quickest and most powerful way of doing it. For a buoyant, joyous feeling releases the energy that many times enables a very wonderful manifestation to take place. If one will buckle down to brass tacks and call on the law of forgiveness, he can then consume all past creations in the consuming flame and be free. You must be conscious that the flame is the active presence of God doing the consuming. The freedom of God is here in action. When you have a feeling to do a certain constructive thing, go ahead, stick to it and do it if the heavens fall. Whether the manifestation comes now or not, should not enter into your consciousness at all. Even when students only know a thing intellectually, they should not allow the mind to keep recalling wrong conditions when they know what this activity does to their success. It is unbelievable that people will not conquer this enemy in their consciousness. No student can ever gain the victory until he stops turning back to the old, negative conditions he is trying to get rid of. The whole work of a teacher is to get some means and explanation over to the student of the activity of acceptance. What the mind accepts is that which the individual agrees with through his attention, by letting the two become one. When the mind accepts and agrees with a thing or condition, the individual decrees it into his world. Whatever you let the attention rest upon, you are agreeing with and accepting, because through the attention you have, let the mind become one with it. If an individual were to see a rattlesnake coiled, would he walk right up to be struck? Certainly not. Yet this is what students are doing when they let their attention turn back to their troubles. Such habits are only past momentum given a specific quality. There are only two activities in life, and if you will not let the inner govern according to its plan of perfection, then the outer must. When a constructive picture is flashed to your mind, it is a reality. When you recall it as a mental picture and hold it again, it calls forth the reality. One can become so aware of his own God presence that at any time he can see and feel its radiance pouring out to him. For things it does not want, the outer has all the confidence in the world. It is up to the student to compel it to have the same confidence for the perfection of God that it has for the imperfection of the senses. The student must always rely on himself. He must always think, what can I do to intensify this activity from the hints given? Benediction. Mighty perfected ones, as we receive thy magic circle of protection, as we receive and are enfolded in thy mighty opulent presence, O Master within, we accept fully that opulence made manifest in our outer experience and use. We give praise and thanks for thy wisdom in its use. We give praise and thanks that we have the full strength to accept only thy mighty active presence at all times, and to refuse acceptance to anything unlike thee.